Hello friends, and welcome to your test review for topic 10, going over our multiples of 10. So today I'm going to show you 4 different kinds of problems that you're going to see on your topic 10 assessment. Now obviously I've changed the numbers, some of them I have changed the words, so these aren't exactly the same, but they're the same sort of problems. All right, let's start down here. Mrs. Rickenbrode needs 3 boxes of red folders and 4 boxes of blue folders. Each box has 30 folders. How many does she need? All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is try to ask myself, what are we talking about here? All right, we're talking about Miss Rickenbrode and how she needs different kinds of folders. So first of all, I know she wants 3 boxes of red, 4 boxes of blue, and then they tell me that each box has 30 folders. So I need to figure out how many she needs altogether. So this is actually a 2-part word problem. So the first thing I'm going to try to do is figure out, all right, how many red folders does she have? So for my red folders, she's going to need 3 boxes, and each box has 30 folders. So that means if I'm talking about her red folders, she has 3 boxes of 30 folders. Now I'm going to use skip counting to help me here. Because I know my 3's pretty well. I know we're doing 3 times 30, but I'm gonna ignore my 0 for now. 3, 6, 9. 3 times 30, 3 groups of 30, so I've got 1 group, 2 group, 3 groups. Now I'm just gonna slap on that 0. So I can see 3 times 30, she has 90 red folders. Now moving on to blue folders. It says she has 4 boxes of blue. So I've got my 4 boxes, my 4 groups of, once again, 30 folders each. So how many blue folders does Miss Rickenbrode need? 4 times 3. This time I'm going to use my mental math. I know that 4 times 3 equals 12. And now I'm going to slap that 0 onto the end. So I know that she has 120 blue folders. But remember, it doesn't want to know how many red or how many blue. It just wanted to know how many she needs. So that means I'm going to need to take my 2 groups and add them up. So now I'm going to have 120 blue folders plus 90 red folders. 0 plus 0, 0. 9 plus 2, y'all know me, I love counting up, so I'm going to start at 9, 10, 11. So I'm going to put my 1 down here. I'm going to regroup my hundreds, and now I have 1 plus 1 equals 2. So how many folders does Miss Rickenbrode need? Miss Rickenbrode needs 210 folders. All right, let's go ahead and move on over to this word problem. Now here I've got Mrs. Ammons buys 20 packs of water. Each pack has 7 bottles. All right, so what is this problem talking about so far? We're talking about Mrs. Ammons getting packs of water. So this is actually a 2-part question. Part A, how many bottles did she buy? And part B, use properties of multiplication to solve. Because remember, one of our strategies for multiples of 10 is using our different properties, whether that's the associative or the distributive property. I'm not sure which one they're talking about yet, but I'll get there once I get down to part B. But I do know that these answers are going to be related. All right, so how many bottles did she buy? That's the problem that I am answering. Now, what here can help me? I can see that she bought 20 packs and that every pack had 7 bottles in it. So now, to find this, all I have to do is multiply my 20 groups of 7 bottles. So I've got 20 groups times 7 bottles. So I know that I can use my skip counting to help me here. So I'm going to use 2 to help me out. And how many groups am I going to have? 7. So that's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. And then I've got that 0. I'm going to slap it on here to the end. So that's 20, 40, 60, 80, 100, 120, 140. So if I had my 7 groups, that means 20 times 7 equals my 140. So she bought 140 bottles. Now this next part, you have 2 questions like this on the test. They will ask you to fill in the blanks here. So it says, I can use blank times 2 equals blank. So I'm using my properties of multiplication. So up here, I see 20 packs and 7 bottles. Now here, this says 2. So I know that that 2 is coming from my 20. So what up here did I do times 2 first? Oh yeah, it was my 7. So I can use 7 times 2 equals, and what does 7 times 2 equal, my friends? 14. Boom. So now they're using our properties of multiplication to break it down. So here this says 7 times 20 equals 7 times blank times 10. All right, so what did they break apart here? My 7 is already here, so I know they didn't break apart the 7. So that means they must have broken apart my 20. So what times 10 equals 20? 2. So here now we've broken it down to 7 times 2 times 10. Now notice here, they no longer have the parentheses. That means they just want the answer to this. And what was 7 times 2? We did that already. It's right up here, 14. And then down here, 14 times 10. Well, I know whenever I am multiplying by 10, all I have to do is slap a 0 onto the end of that. So this becomes 14 and a 0, which is 140. Notice, friends, this answer and this answer are exactly the same. And look, this is just the strategy that really, honestly, we used to solve it. Because we didn't skip count by 20, we skip counted by 2. So they just want you to explain your thinking with these fill in the blanks. All right, so now let's go ahead and, we'll move over here. Let's change up my color. Now for this one, you're gonna have a table match. Now we've done table matches before, so each of these will have a little box in it. Now your boxes, obviously, you will not be filling in with a marker the way that I am. You will be filling it in just by clicking on it on your screen. So let's go ahead and look at this problem. It says match each expression to its equivalent expression. All right, so first of all, I have to remind myself, what is an expression? Well, I have a clue just by looking at the problem itself. An expression is just a math problem that hasn't been solved yet. It doesn't have an equal sign. So I know when they're talking about expressions, they mean 6 times 30, 5 times 60, 6 times 70, 30 times 10, 18 times 10, and 42 times 10. So I'm going to be matching each of these up top to the ones that equal the same thing over here on the side. Because remember, equivalent means equal. So I'm trying to figure out which of these 3 problems will give me the exact same answer as each of my rows. So what I recommend doing here is first of all solving and figuring out what each of these mean, and then figuring out, okay, well, which ones are equal, which ones are the same, and then filling in that bubble. So I'm gonna start here with 6 times 30. Now, I'm gonna, just like we did down here, I am gonna ignore that 0 for nowsies, and I'm gonna use my other basic math fact, 6 times 3. Now, I know that 6 times 3 equals 18. And I've got my 0, so I can't forget to slap it on. So that means 6 times 30 is actually going to equal 180. Down here for 5 times 60, once again, I'm gonna use my multiplication facts, 5 times 6 to help me out. I'll skip count, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. So that means 5 times 6 is 30, and then I slap on a 0 because it is a multiple of 10. And now here I've got 6 times 70. So I'm gonna use my basic math fact for 6 times 7. I know 6 times 7 equals 42. And then I've got my 0, so what am I gonna do? Slap it on the end, obviously. Okay, so now I've solved these three problems. So before I want to go ahead and fill in which one they equal, I need to know what these equal as well. Now for me, these seem way easier to solve because they're just a factor times 10. And we know anytime we multiply something times 10, what do? Slap on the 0. So here I've got 30 times 10, slap on a 0. 300, easy peasy. 18 times 10, slap on a 0, easy peasy. 42, slap on a 0. 420. So I've got my three answers for my top and my three answers for the side. All I have to do now is see, okay, well, where do they match? So starting here for 180, what was 30 times 10? Was that 180? No, it was not. It was 300. How about 18 times 10? Was that 180? Yes, it was. So I would, if you're on the computer, you would just click this button to mark that this one is equal. Now let's go ahead and double check just to make sure. 42 times 10, does that equal 180? No, it was 420. Now down here we had 5 times 60. I'm going to do the exact same process. I am just looking to figure out which of these three up top equal my 300 here on the side. So 5 times 60 was 300, so 30 times 10, was that 300? Boom. Yes, it was. Now technically, friends, I only have one column that hasn't been shaded in. So I can pretty much assume that this answer is going to be correct because I know that you will only have one dot in each row and you should only have one dot filled in each column. So 6 times 70, I already found out was 420. Now which column was 420? Oh yeah, it was this one. So I would bubble this in. So notice, one choice per row, one choice per column. If you have an answer sheet that after you have filled out your table looks like this, notice this column is so alone. It doesn't have anything filled in. That tells me that I've made a mistake. So I would know that I would need to double check my work over here to see which row actually equaled 420. All right, last problem for our review today. We've got this one right up here. Select all that equal to 8 times 70. Wow. All right, so our big important words here. Select all. What does that tell me? You're right. It means that there's going to be more than one answer, which is very important for me to know. Now, how else could I have figured out that I was going to have more than one answer for this problem? There's an E. Remember, friends, anytime you see an E, as long as it's not accolitics, you know that that means there's going to be more than one answer. So I know that I have to choose at least 2, but up to 4 answers to make sure that I've got it right. So here, select all that equal 8 times 70. The very first thing I'm going to need to do is figure out what is 8 times 70. Now I'm going to go ahead and use my skip counting to help me. So 8 times 70, that would be 8 groups of 70. But remember, I'm going to ignore that 0 for now. So I've got 8, 16, 24, 32, 40. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 groups. Now I've got 48 and 56. But remember, it wasn't groups of 7, it was groups of 7D. So I know that I can slap a 0 on that. So I am looking for problems that will equal 560. So first of all, A, I've got 7 times 80. Now I noticed something right away. I noticed that my first value is the same as it is up here. 8 times 7, 7 times 8. They just switched the order of the 7 and the 8, and also we switched which was the multiple of 10. Notice up here, 8 was by itself, whereas down here it's AD, where here this is 7 and this is 7D. However, I know that 7 times 8 is still going to equal 56, and if I slap a 0 on there for my 0 in the 80s, I know that's going to give me, boodle-boop, a correct answer. So I know that A is going to be one of my multiple answers. Now let's move on to B. Here again, I've got in parentheses 8 times 7 times 10. Now what does parentheses mean? That's right, it means do this first. Now lucky for me, I've already done 8 times 7 now twice. So I already know 8 times 7 would equal 56. And 56 times 10, slap a 0 on that end. So I know that this one is also 560. Now over here, I've got 8 times 2 times 20. Now my parentheses tell me, do this first. So I would do 2 times 2, which equals 4, and then slap a 0 on it. So I know that this is going to be 8 times 40. Now friends, I really don't even need to solve it at this point because is 8 times 40 going to give me the same answer as 8 times 70? Absolutely not. Booger. So I'm not picking it. Now over here, I have 4 times 4 times 70. Okay, so I see that we broke apart one of our factors. Which factor did they break apart? Did they break apart the 8 or did they break apart the 70? They definitely broke apart the 8 because my 70 is still the same. So now I have to ask myself 4 times 4. Is 4 times 4 the same as 8? No. Plus, we know that that's not how you're supposed to set up the distributive property. Remember, if it was the distributive property, it should have looked like 4 times 70 plus 4 times 70. So I know that this one is also a booger. And if I did go ahead and solve that out, I would know that this was 280 times 4. And I could use repeated addition to actually solve that and see, does it equal 560? No, it does not. All right, moving right along. We've got 4 times 2 times 70. Okay, so this one looks like they broke up a factor and they also used the associative property. So which factor, once again, did we break up? You are correct. They broke up our 8. So here we've got 4 times 2 times 70. So I know using the distributive property, 8 equals 4 times 2. Now we also had that original factor from our problem of times 70. Now what do you notice about this expression compared to this one? I hope what you said was that they're using the exact same factors. All they did was change who was hanging out together. So we've still got all 3 of our best friends here, 4 and 2 and 70, but we just changed who was hanging out. This time it was 4 times 2, not the 2 times 70 up there. But does that matter? Will my product change? Absolutely not. Because I know the associative property says they're 3 best friends no matter what. So I know that E is also going to give me the correct answer because they broke it up 8 into 4 times 2. And all they did was change around who was in the parentheses, which according to the associative property, you are allowed to do. All right, friends, so remember, as you watch this video, if you have any questions, please send a message to your teacher. We are here to help if there's a problem or an example that you didn't understand before, not after, you take the test. We're here to help. Let us know if you have any questions.